proceed with the presentation today. And it's actually okay because today is kind of a kickoff for the whole series. So the following Sundays, each Sunday in September, I'll be having 2 Facebook Lives each Sunday at 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern. And I will tell you what the different topics will be. And so hopefully for all of those, I will have the comment thing working because I really do want to hear from you all. What are your questions? And, how can I use my experience to help make it easier for you? So that's my goal here with this presentation. As I introduced in my little 7-minute video that I put up there, I went through experiencing dementia with my mother for about 8 years. And it was both a beautiful and moving experience and also a very challenging experience. But one of the things that I decided was, as I kept meeting people who were going through similar things, even though all of our experiences are so different and unpredictable and, surprising, it's very difficult to provide an answer or a solution to all of us because we're all so unique. There is a way to give us some tools that can make it easier. So from my experience, I realized that if I had just had a little bit more preparation, if I had just been able to have headlights that went down the road a little bit more so that I wasn't constantly being shocked and surprised, and had a little bit of organization, like if somebody could have told me, like, create these files, track this information, or know, like, okay, you're at this stage and this next stage is coming and you don't know when it'll be coming, but you want to be prepared. These are the things you can think about. Just a little bit of that, I think, would have helped so much, and but enabled my family to kind of really reduce our stress level and enjoy whatever we could with the time that we had left with our mother. So that's what I want to do with this series, is I want to kind of walk you through 7 different perspectives that I hope will help you gain something from my lessons. So what I have done is I've created 7 different sections. The first one, which is today, is what I call "There Might Be Good Here." And by the way, I do have an agenda for this that I will post below, so you can download it after this, so you don't have to write all this down if you don't want to. But in this one today, I just want to share a little bit about some of the positive things around my experience, because I feel like that doesn't get enough attention, and it's a really good reminder, and that's where I'd like to begin. So that's what I'll cover today. And then in the second module, which will be next Sunday, and the third module, which will also be next Sunday at 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, we will look at organization tips and tools, from files and paperwork to medicine, caregiver management, contact lists, hospital preparation, house organization, like all aspects of what are things that, small changes that you might be able to make that can make a big difference. And then we look at, how do you identify your gaps? So again, all of us are different, all of us are unique. How do you look at your situation and understand, where are your vulnerabilities, where are you, so that you can create your map that is meaningful for you to get through the process. So that'll be next Sunday. Then the following Sunday, which will be the 4th and the 5th classes, that will be what I call small steps, and then timeline, no fear. So in small steps, what we will do is talk about, caregiving as a long game. I think that we are so tempted in our society, at least I can speak for myself, of wanting to solve problems. We want to fix things. We want to fix them. And, we see something that's wrong and we want to make it better. And it's a challenge when it comes to dementia because it just can't really be fixed. It's one of those things that's not, it's not, we can't take a pill and have it go away, at least not yet. And so it's a long game, it's a long game, and we need to really structure ourselves to be able to handle that long game and to endure and to persevere, have that endurance. And so that means, relaxing a little bit and making sure we're taking care of ourselves and being forgiving of what we can and can't do, and pulling in the resources that we can and allowing it to be imperfect in a lot of ways. So we kind of look at how we can work on our perspective around having it be a long game. What does that mean? How does that change how we think about it? And we kind of breathe a little bit, and we then do some checklists. I'm a fan of checklists, and I don't know if you have read the book Being Mortal by Atul Gawande, but he actually wrote a second, it's a great book, by the way, Being Mortal. Might not be easy to read. It's good, great book, but it is honest. So, take it when you're ready. But he did write a follow-up book, which is, I think it's called The Importance of Checklists or something like that. And I believe it. I'm a big fan, and especially when it comes to managing all of the different aspects of caregiving. Big fan of checklists. So we look at step number 4. We're doing small steps. We're looking at the long game, and we're working on checklists. And then in 5, which is also going to be on the 22nd of September, that'll be at 5 o'clock on the 22nd. We will look at, it's called Timeline No Fear. So in this class, we're going to look into the future, and we're going to say, okay, what does our future look like? And what are the questions we need to ask around this future? Who do we need to talk to? What family members, what caregivers, what spiritual people, who do we need to bring in to understand what our options are and to make decisions around care as we reach toward the end of life? So we will understand the difference between palliative and hospice care. We will look at ending options, and kind of from a perspective of dementia, how do those questions, how are they a little bit different when we are looking at it from a perspective of dementia? And then I'll provide some resources. There's actually a game there's a couple of really fun games that have been designed to help people have conversations around end of life priorities, and just to think about these, topics that can feel a little bit difficult to enter into. So some fun options. And then in the last day, which is the 29th, the last Sunday, we're going to do the 6th and the 7th. The 6th one is taking care of yourself. And we talk about how to enjoy this time. We talk about improv theater. Talk about the role of the caregiver and how we need to understand that, and what it really means to be a caregiver, and how we need to own it. And then what are our self-care routines? And I'll give you some tips and resources for that. And what about work-life balance? So we also talk about that for people that are trying to manage their own family as well as trying to take care of parents. So, or anyone that has any kind of work-life balance. I mean, it's just a lot to be added on to an already full schedule. So we'll talk about that. And then in the last module, which is the 7th module, I call it Encouragement Treasure. And in this module, we're just going to recap kind of where we've come in this little journey. What have you learned? Where are you? And how can we summarize what we've learned so that you feel good about this new information? And so what have we covered? We've got the basics in place. We understand the stages of dementia. We now have a system. We have a map for ourselves based on our needs and the priorities for our family. We have taken a look into the future. We've been bold and we've looked into the future, and we've asked some questions of ourselves and of the people in our loved one's life that are important, to help us put our arms and hands around that. We understand our role as a caregiver, and we are taking care of ourselves. We also have our action list. So we have our checklist, and we have taken some actions on that list. So that is where we will end up. I actually have been really encouraged by the responses of people to this class. And so I have been motivated to put together some tools. So I'm also going to provide some handouts. So I'll provide a list of books that I recommend, so a glossary of terms, which can be so confusing. You start to go into this, it's like a whole new language, it's a whole new world. And so trying to just understand, what are all of these different terms? How do I, keep track of them? So I'll provide a glossary. And then I'll provide my 8 keys map, which we'll be talking about, and I'll provide a tool for you so that you can use that to move forward. So I really wish that I could ask you guys questions right now and see if you're hearing me, and see if it's resonating with you, or if you have any questions about what I've just said. But I will just have to power on for the moment. So I'll just dive into what I wanted to share today, which is there might be good here. So this is a little bit about my story, my mom's story, my family's journey, and some of the surprises that I felt as I went along with my mom. So I know whenever I first say to anyone that my mom had dementia, the reaction is always, oh, that's so hard, I'm so sorry. And it's a completely valid response. I totally understand that. But I always feel like saying back, oh, but it was actually not that bad, or there was something beautiful there, or, I feel like I want to say and share some of the positive parts of the experience. And this isn't to diminish any of the difficulties or challenges that come with being a caregiver for someone with dementia. It's just to say there also can be some gifts, at least for me. And so I wanted to share those with you. So my mom, she had 8 years, more or less, of her journey. And she was always a creative person. She was an artist. She was an adventurer. She was a world traveler. She was independent thinker. And she was also a bit of an introvert. Or she always called herself an introvert. But as she was progressing, so there's kind of like in our experience, she went through, there's the initial stages, early stages, where there's kind of signs that seem like it's more than just normal forgetfulness. So we're starting to see the cars getting into more accidents than usual. Like the judgment seems to be off a little bit. And, then medicine starts to not be taken correctly. And, things are starting to be repeated more. And, so they're kind of like things like that, right? And then the next stage was the more difficult one, where my mom was aware that she was not connecting clearly. And I think that's the most difficult period of time for anybody with dementia, is that period when, they can still see and they know that something's slipping. And it's very frustrating. And they start to lose control. So like the car got taken away, which is always very difficult. She was able to keep her dog. Luckily, we were in a facility that allowed her to keep her dog, but the care for her dog had to change. She could no longer walk the dog. We had to and other people were frightened of the dog because it was a collie, it was a bigger dog. So, you know, we had to manage that. And then, we, of course, like then the medicine, like if she wasn't taking the medicine correctly, so we had to have somebody to control that for her. And so more people were like coming into her life, into her space, into her home. And that transition was very difficult. Once we got through that, she started to accept the help, you know, and get very comfortable with a new reality, and maybe not notice that it was anything strange about it. So like people were coming in to help her every day, you know, she was living in a different place. She couldn't go out certain doors, you know, you know what I mean? Like just that became her life, and it was no longer a conflict. She was just able to enjoy it. And so in that stage, which was, you know, probably the last 2 years, I guess, of our life, there was a lot of beauty there. And again, I know this is going to happen for everybody, but I have heard from people that there have been cases of great healing that have taken place with relationships that were adversarial, you know, or ridden with conflict between, you know, parents and children, or sometimes even siblings, and the relationship changes because of the dementia, and it allows for healing to take place. It allows for conversations to happen because there's this different dynamic, and that, or just a, you know, a beingness to happen because of this different dynamic, and that ends up being a healing aspect for the relationship where people didn't think there was going to be ever any healing or movement. So I think what I would like to invite is just the possibility that dementia is inviting us to experience the world differently, and that can be a great gift, you know. So we can see differently, we can hear differently, we can relate differently, and it's valid. It's not a diminished state, it's a different state. And sometimes my mom could come out with things that would blow my sisters and I away, you know, like we would think, you know, she wasn't connecting with something, and then she'd be like, so what's up with, you know, so-and-so's boyfriend now? And we're like, we didn't think you were listening to that. Wow, how did you know she had a boyfriend? Or, you know, she would just pick up on things or ask a real pointed question that would get right to the heart of something that one of us was struggling with that we hadn't even told her about, but she had tuned in on it somehow. So she was full of surprises. And I guess, you know, the other thing with at least our experience of dementia was that it was certainly not linear. So it wasn't like we were here and then it got, you know, progressively worse, and we would always know, okay, we know today where we're going. It's either going to be here or it's going to be there. We would go in day and we'd be like, we don't know. Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? You know, my mom, she celebrated her 90th birthday a week before she passed away. And we didn't, you know, it was unexpected, but I mean, on her 90th birthday, she had all of her family there. My sister just had a new golden retriever puppy. She was eating everything. It was, you know, she was having a great time. It was a beautiful sunny day. And, you know, she was cracking jokes, and, you know, she was clearly just having a ball, you know, and it was a marvel. And then, you know, a week later, she slipped, she fell, and within, I think, 9 days, she had passed away. And so it was such a joy to be able to see and realize that there could still be those moments, even though it was so far along. So one of these things is the value of seeing things differently. The other thing I like to talk about is an idea called being versus doing. And this is something I learned about in a book by Dr. Bill Thomas. It's called Second Wind, and I will list this below as well. And he talks about how in our world today, in kind of like the last 30 years, we've really emphasized the doing aspect of our existence. We value our independence. We value individuality. We're productivity and efficiency, fast, things that can be done fast and things that can be done efficiently, and things that can be tracked, things that can make money, things that are like tangible. And so those are the things that we value and that we count and that are we, look at. And, well, what are you doing these days, right? Is the question we ask. Oh, what are you doing? What is your work? That kind of thing. We have to be busy and we have to show something for it. And what we haven't been emphasizing is this side of being. And being would be, creative things, relationships, community, things that are slow, things that can't be measured, things that are more abstract. And that whole side of beingness, which is so valuable, of course, hasn't been getting as much attention. And I feel like with dementia, it really brings that back. And the emphasis on being. And I had some wonderful moments with my mom where she helped me remember that and reminded me that my life is also valuable, even if I'm not doing anything. I can be sitting here holding her hand, not even talking, just sitting together, holding hands. And that is enough. That is still existence. It's still alive. It's still valid. It's still a human being, not a human doing. It's a human being. And that, I don't know how you want to place that in your overall understanding of the meaning of life. But for me, I really settled into that, and my mom helped me to do that. And so last but not least, so I had seeing differently, being versus doing, and the value of being. And then the last thing I wanted to say was that a lot of what happens with dementia and our experiences is that it's new. It's unknown to us. We are being put into a situation that we have not been in before. And our society in general has not been in it before. We don't understand it that well. We are learning about it every day. And certainly with more people having conversations and sharing stories and everything, hopefully we'll continue to learn more and more. But for the moment, it's very new. It's very unknown, and that's uncomfortable because we're not good at it. We're not good at this. And so I think it's important to just recognize that. Like, it's okay. Like, we're not supposed to be good at this. We've never done it before. So, there's a quote that I love, which is, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And what I would like to do in this series is, I hope that all of you will feel that you're learning to surf. So no matter what surprises are coming, no matter when they come, no matter how big the wave, you've been at least given some tools so you can surf. You can surf those waves, and maybe even enjoy some of the time along the way. So yeah, and I like to always say that my goal for any of my classes is that people will feel more prepared, more positive, and more supported by the end of the course. So I hope that today I have given you something to help you feel a little bit more supported, giving you something to think about that helped you see something in a different way. And I hope that you will come to the next class. Thank you so much for being here. It is 3:30, so that is our time today. I will be posting below the agenda, and you can share that with anyone that you like. And I will be posting, what was the other thing I said I would post? Oh goodness, I just said something I was going to post. Oh, it was the books. So I will also be posting the books that I mentioned today. And if you have any questions, I'm sorry that I couldn't get the comments working. I will figure that out. But you can, of course, comment on the Facebook page, or you can private message me as well. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you again next week. Take care, everyone.